Connie Podesta presents How to Be the Person Successful Companies Fight to Keep. Today's workplace is high-tech, high-energy, and highly competitive, and companies are excited about hiring and retaining good employees who can thrive in this environment. Just exactly what skills and behaviors are companies looking for to determine an employee's value to their organization? Connie Podesta is about to share that with you from research based on hundreds of interviews with CEOs, managers, supervisors, human resource directors, and business owners in all industries, business industry, education, and healthcare. Connie's experience and credentials in these areas speak for themselves. Connie is a certified speaking professional, Bachelor of Science in Speech and Communications, Master's in Human Relations and Counseling, Licensed Professional Counselor, Leadership and Management Consultant, Business Owner, Educator, Comedian, Songwriter, Radio and TV Personality, Playwright and Actress, and author of Self-Esteem and the 6-Second Secret and How to Be the Person Successful Companies Fight to Keep. And now, here's Connie Podesta.
Well, here we are together, a great group. And I want to start out today by asking you all to just kind of think a little bit in the future. I want you to pretend that it's next Monday and you're walking into work, and all of a sudden you walk into work and you realize that they're going through a few changes. How many of you does this sound pretty appropriate? Right? Now, maybe they're not such good changes. Maybe your company is going through some downsizing, maybe some reorganization, maybe some layoffs. Maybe it's some great changes. Maybe your company is deciding who to promote. Maybe they're deciding who to give raises to, who to give bonuses to. That'd be a good Monday, wouldn't it? But whatever way, whether it's downsizing and layoffs, whether it's new promotions and new opportunities, the senior management of your company is sitting in a room, and they have lots of personnel files in front of them, and they are making some decisions. They're making decisions of who to do things to, who to promote, who to lay off, who to give bonuses to, and your name comes up. All of a sudden, your file is right in front of the CEO, and your name is the one being discussed in the room. Let me ask you one question. So what are they saying? How many people in this room would fight for you at this moment? How many people in your senior management team would fight to keep you on staff, fight to give you a raise, fight to give you some opportunities for promotion, fight to give you a bonus? Because that's what we're going to talk about today. How many of you in here would like to stay employed? How many of you would like to move ahead in your company and have better opportunities? How many of you use your paychecks for luxuries such as mortgages and food? How many of you would like to learn what employers, business owners, managers, CEOs, HR people, how many of you would like the honest truth about what these people are saying that they want in an employee today in order to help fight for that employee and help them succeed? Would that help you out? So here's what I did. I did a survey a few years ago. I would imagine I interviewed over 1,000 people in top senior management positions. And I asked them all one question. I said, you have 2 employees. Both are technically competent. So we're not talking skill level here. They're both technically competent. But there's some changes that are going to be made. Which one would you fight to keep? I told them all I would keep their names anonymous. I told them to be totally honest. I said, don't even worry about being politically correct. Don't tell me what you would say to somebody on an exit interview. Tell me the honest reasons, the gut reasons, the real reasons why one employee becomes more successful and moves ahead and someone else is not given the same opportunities. Now, there's always 2 sides to everything. Companies definitely have in their mind what they want from an employee. But how many of you would love the opportunity to tell your companies, your boss, and your senior management team what you would love from them? How many of you would like that opportunity? So, you know what? I've decided that we're going to do this both ways. We're not just going to talk about what companies want from you. We're also going to talk about what it is that you need from your company, because a lot of these skills are both the same. First thing that I heard, and I heard it over and over and over again from both employees and employers, and everyone felt guilty talking about it. Connie, I shouldn't even be mentioning this. Connie, this isn't even something I should be bringing up. Connie, this doesn't even have anything to do with work. You know what it is? Leave your personal life at home. How many of you in here have ever worked with somebody who brings their personal life to work and it absolutely affects your ability to do your job. Now, a lot of people will say to me at this point, Connie, my personal life is my business. Nobody has a right to tell me what I should do about my personal life. Do you agree with that? I do. I totally agree. As long as you and I do not bring our personal life into a business situation and allow it to impact our colleagues, our customers, and our job. I was HR director for a major company for years. I was an in-house therapist. How many of you could use an in-house therapist at your company? I just had a little office right as you walked in the front door of the company, and any employee could come to me at any given moment. Would you all use that? Well, let me ask you a better question. How many of you are seated at a table with somebody that could use therapy? Now, a lot of employees came to me on their own. Some of you would come to me, right? They came to me because their customers drove them crazy. They came to me because their bosses drove them crazy. They came to me because their product or service drove them crazy. They came to me because they didn't understand all the changes that were taking place. Some of the employees were sent to me. They were sent to me by their boss. They were sent to me because they had an attitude or they were apathetic. They couldn't handle the job. They couldn't handle change. They didn't provide great customer service. But here's what was amazing. In all the years that I worked for this company, no matter whether an employee came to me on their own or whether they were sent to me, within 15 to 20 minutes, we weren't talking about work. We were talking about a spouse that was abusive or addictive, someone that they had slept next to for years and they couldn't even communicate with this person anymore. Maybe we were talking about one of their children, a child that they couldn't talk to or communicate or motivate or understand. Maybe we were talking about one of their parents, a parent that they had to make a decision about, or a parent or caregiver that had said or done something to them years and years ago that they had never ever been able to forget or forgive. Or maybe we were just talking about them. Something inside of them, some personality trait, some fear, some phobia, some insecurity or a doubt that kept them from doing their job. So I learned in all those years, ladies and gentlemen, there is no separating personal from professional life. And a lot of companies that bring me in, this really bothers them. They say, Connie, we don't want you talking about personal life. It has nothing to do with work. And I agree, it doesn't. The moment you walk in to your company has a right to demand and expect that you give 100% of your time and energy. However, it's important that we not treat people as though the only life they had is between the hours they walked into work and the time they leave. How many of you in here have a personal life or vague memories of one? If we're going to talk about personal life, and I tell companies, do you understand that our personal and professional life mirror each other? If you are in management and leadership and you cannot get an employee to work on time, you will never, ever get your teenager to meet their curfew because it is exactly the same skill. If you are in a department and you can't work well with another department, you can't work well as a team, then you aren't working well with people in your golf club or people in your church group, people in your neighborhood carpool. It's exactly the same skill. And if every time your boss or manager tells you what to do and it just ticks you off, I mean, I don't just mean you're annoyed, but when someone gives you orders or gives you direction, it just makes you angry, then if we were to go back into your history and uncover stories about your mother or father that to this day you still struggle with specific authority issues. What are the areas of personal life? There's two areas. One is childhood and one is present relationships. If I'm going to talk about childhood, what I say to people is, you and I cannot use things that happened to us in our past as excuses for present poor behavior. I know people who have messed up 40 years of their life because they cannot forgive and forget about the first 10 or 15. And the bottom line is, ladies and gentlemen, the day you and I turned 18, there's no one else to blame. The day you and I turn 18, you and I are accountable and responsible for our behavior. But we do need to understand our childhood because it's going to help us understand how healthy and functionally we relate to other people today. A functional, healthy environment, whether it's in childhood, whether it's in your home, whether it's at work. A healthy, functional environment is defined as this. 3 criteria. Number 1, it's safe. If you are in a healthy environment or grew up in a healthy environment, you did not fear abuse. You weren't afraid that you would be mistreated. Number two, in a healthy, functional environment, there are consistent rules and consequences. You know where you stand. If it's a home, you know what the rules are. How many of you grew up in what we would call a healthy environment at home? You knew what would happen to you if you brought home an F, right? You knew what would happen to you if you came home after drinking. You knew what would happen to you if you talked back to your mom or dad. There was no doubt. And number three criteria in a healthy, functional environment is that you always felt valued. Even when they were punishing you, even when you were being corrected and disciplined, there was not a doubt in your mind that your caregivers, your parents, whoever it is that raised you, cared about you. And the same holds true for a work situation. A healthy work situation is a situation, an environment where, number one, you feel safe. You aren't worried that you're going to be yelled at, screamed at, ridiculed, sarcasm used. Number two, you know where you stand. You know what's expected of you. And number three, you feel valued as a person. The number one reason why someone quits a job is not because of money. It's because they no longer felt good about themselves in the presence of their peers. The number one reason why someone has an affair in marriage is not about sex. It's because they no longer felt good about themselves in the presence of their spouse. And the number one reason why a child quits school before the age of 18 is not about grades. It's because they no longer felt good about themselves in the presence of their teachers. So the reason why you and I fail, the reason why you and I quit, is not usually because of material things. It's because of how we feel about ourselves in that situation. Personal life is important for your present relationships. If you were to come to me and you would want me to give you a prediction of how successful you would be at work, I wouldn't ask you about your sales figures. I wouldn't ask you about your numbers. I wouldn't ask you about your last evaluation. What I would ask you about is the choices you make from the moment you leave the office until you return. Choices that you're making about your health, your weight, your exercise, sleep, how you take care of yourself mentally and physically, the choices that you make about your relationships. Are you in abuse-free relationships? Are you in addiction-free relationships? Is your home and personal life safe, loving, and supportive? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we're in an unbelievably competitive world right now. Every company represented in this room is struggling to survive. For you and I to be able to come to work and do the job that we must do in order to stay employable and be successful, we have got to be able to walk into work feeling good about ourselves at that point. So, the first criteria to be a successful employee has nothing to do with what you do on the job. It's taking care of yourself before you ever even walk into work. Well, now let's bring it into work. The next one we heard over and over and over and over again. And let me ask all of you this. What drives you the craziest? What is the thing that absolutely is frustrating you the most about some of the people you work with? What do you think the next one was? How many of you have ever worked with anyone with a little attitude? How many of you have ever worked with anyone that's a little testy, mad, angry, apathetic, lazy, thinks they're better, chip on their shoulder? Do any of you recognize? And if they're in this room, don't point at them. That is so rude. There is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that every company we interviewed, every management team versus employee, everyone I talked to is sick and tired of people whining, griping, moaning, negative, complaining, angry, hostile, lazy, indifferent, and apathetic. How many would agree with that? How many are tired of it? How many? Now, and think of this. You know what's really interesting? When you and I walk out of the house each morning, we have two choices, right? We can walk out of our house and we can choose. Now, right, first of all, let me talk about the word choose here for a minute. Because a lot of times I get emails and people say, Connie, you keep talking about choice. I don't have choices. I don't choose all the things that happen to me. All right, we don't choose whether or not to get an illness. And we don't choose for someone that we love to get hurt or injured. And we don't choose sometimes to lose our jobs or be laid off or transferred to another department. We don't choose to have our house blown away by a tornado. These aren't choices. But ladies and gentlemen, every single second of every day, we have a choice of how to behave. We always have a choice of how to behave when we face whatever comes our way. That's a choice. So every day you and I walk out of our house, every person, we have two choices. We could walk out of our home every morning, go to work, and decide that day to be a friendly, happy, productive, cooperative,